Hello world, welcome to Coming Down. This is Matthew. I'm joined here by my co-host Nathan.
Hey y'all.
Wow. We've got a good one for you guys today.
We really do. Yeah, but we bumped this one up, honestly, because it was just, we were so excited to put it out, so.
Not something that I was expecting we were going to get from a guest here on this show. I mean, like, I never expect anything, to be perfectly honest, but it's a really personal, kind of intense story, so
yeah, for sure.
Really happy that we get to share it.
Yeah, don't want to give away too much, but definitely honored that our guest shared this story with us, and yeah, it's really cool. I think you're all gonna really enjoy this one.
Hell yeah. Yeah, anything from your week that you want to share?
I wish I had anything exciting, but it's just been, falling back into the usual thing of things, right? Once the holidays are over, just been working regular hours and all the normal stuff.
We've hit the week where you officially give up on your 24-hour fitness membership.
Yeah.
Go back to eating junk food and hating your life. Yeah. Right, fair. That sounds about where my life is at. So
yeah. You just got off like a 9-day stint, didn't you?
Oh fuck yeah. I was like preaching about how it was going to get so much easier in January, but and it has. I mean, I'm not working 16-hour days, but Jesus, man, like working 9 days straight without a break is tough, even when they're like 6-hour days.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's always rough. Just getting up day after day to go right. And put in the work. So
for real.
Yeah. Well, let's figure out how to not work jobs.
Oh my God, seriously.
Any listeners out there have any wild plans for us?
We are open to get rich quick schemes.
Yep.
I'm not like trying to peddle any snake oil, but I'm open to a lot of ideas here.
Sure. I'll peddle snakes and oil.
Snakes and oil are fine. Just not the 2-in-1 container. That's all I'm saying.
Indeed. God, what would it be like to just, it seems like it was so easy to just make money even if it was scamming back in the day.
Oh, Christ, the mail order schemes that you used to see in the back of like Popular Science and shit.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing. I mean, there's still shit though, like the fucking the wraps, like the fucking the fad diets and like the new age like crystal fucking chakra kind of stuff is definitely
vaginal eggs.
Oh boy, yeah. And I mean like audiophile anything basically,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of great stuff there.
For sure. Yeah, following along the whole trajectory of Gwyneth Paltrow's company, Goop, has just been fascinating.
Yeah, she's got like the $100 sterling silver shot glass in the shape of a thimble for when you just want a thimble of something.
That's great.
Lord.
Well, anyway, not above it.
Yeah. Hit us up with your ideas for, grift and whatnot.
We're already shilling a few people this, and people are paying for it, so.
Yeah, and wow, thank you.
Yep.
My goodness. With that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have too much more to chit-chat about. I say we get right to it.
Oh, segue, here we go. If you would like to help us with producing this show, hit us up on Patreon. That's patreon.com/comingdownpod. Anything that you want to contribute would be great. Right now it's just $1, and I know we've promised this already, but we're serious. We have more coming.
We do.
It's in the pipe, and it's going to be hitting the streets soon. Also, if you would like to be on the show, if you have a story that you'd like to tell, please hit us up on Twitter @ComingDownPod or email comingdownpod@gmail.com. Also, if you just want to say anything, we would love to hear what you have to say.
Indeed. And speaking of Twitter, we're still running that contest, so that's going to run through the end of January. All you have to do is retweet any of our tweets at all.
Anything.
And you could win Batman Damned #1.
And lest you forget, it contains Bruce Wayne's fleshy full-color penis.
Indeed. And for the first time ever. First appearance.
So true. So give us a retweet. I mean, How can you not want that to be enshrined forever in your collection? Also, if you want to see the show notes for any episode, who knows how much there's going to be from this one, but
there's at least one link that I have.
Okay, cool. We have stuff for almost every episode, and that's on the mothership, comingdownpod.com. Also, the platforms that we are on include Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Also, if you'd like to give us a review, follow us over on Stitcher and let us know what you think. It really helps us out with visibility. You can do that on iTunes if you want, but it has been proven that is a pile of shit water. So,
yep.
Your mileage may vary there.
Yep.
That's about all we got. So thanks for listening and enjoy.
Indeed.
To call it savaging because we knew this guy named Steve Savage who would come over and ask to get a bag on the cuff, but he hadn't paid for the previous one yet. And
right.
You'd bring that up and you'd be like, oh, well, here's the money for that one. Now can I get another one? And it's like, so dude, you're really just buying a bag now and leaving that one on your tab.
Yeah, right.
So we started calling it Savage.
You're keeping the rolling tab
Steve
going.
Savage, man.
Don't savage me, man.
He'd have a tab going with multiple dealers so that he could just get enough money to go to the one who he either hadn't savaged yet or had enough money to pay off the previous savaging and get some other thing, It's just fuck, man.
We used to call it the payday shuffle. So
yeah.
So back when back in my more poor days, where it's you had payday loans at the 5 different joints around town, and so you get paid and you go the first one, pay that one off, but take out a new loan to go pay the other one, to take out a new loan to go pay the other one, to take out a new loan. And it's just do that for months on end and never get ahead and
get rich quick. Not.
Yeah, get poor quick, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Those companies are so predatory.
Oh yeah, that's lucky I never had to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then you end at the pawn shop to put down the interest on the amp you have in there that you don't want to lose.
Pawned a few things, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely done that. Yeah,
lost a few things to pawn for sure. Because oh god.
Oh yeah. Well, cool. So, how many have you aired so far?
Let's see, we're on 10 this week.
Yeah, we're gonna air 10 tomorrow or tonight tomorrow.
Yeah, we
usually 10
10
different episodes.
Yeah.
But we've got depending on how it goes down, yours won't come out for a minute because we have 15 more episodes banked that we've just because we've just been cranking through them.
Yeah.
So
we took a month off and still have more than we did when we took a month off.
Yeah, I got married last month.
Oh, congrats! That was you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was Dolly Parton for his wedding.
Duh. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
And so we were like, we're gonna take a little. We'll backseat this a little bit, and then I think we still ended up recording 6 episodes that month or something.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So
we wanted to get back
down.
into it so bad that every time we hung out, it was let's bang out 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. Well, it's coming more natural now too. We kind of know what we're doing. So.
Yeah. What was the impetus for all this? Just drinking, shooting the shit, and...
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I had wanted to start a podcast for a while, and just kind of my idea was doing just a sit around, shoot the shit storytelling podcast.
Right.
Because, I don't know if you listen to any other podcasts, but there's the ones where people get on stage and stuff, like The Moth and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, those are all cool, but I always wanted something a little more casual, a little more... I don't know, just more like you're sitting in a room with people hearing the stories.
Right.
Because there's always those great moments where you're having drinks with people and then someone gets into a story and they just capture everyone in the room. And, and it's just so much fun when you're in those moments. So I want to just recreate that. And then one night we were sitting around at the bar. Well, because I was having trouble starting it because I was going to try and get guests on week after week. And scheduling a guest every single week was troublesome. You know,
that's logistically
busy adults
challenging.
And stuff.
Yeah.
But then one night we were just sitting around and it's like, hey, why don't we just tell our stories and then we can get guests on from time to time, but then the guest thing won't hold us back. We can just get together and
right.
So,
yeah.
And then the rest is history, pretty much. We've just been cranking them out and having a good old time doing it. So
God, it must have been about this time last year too, because I remember we were just sitting at the bar and you're like, "Hey, man, what do you think about doing a podcast?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that sounds like something I want to do. And you're like, cool. I mean, we can't really do it right now because it's the holidays, and I know you are working a lot. But in January, let's get it started. And we had just enough time for me to forget about it, and then remember that we'd talked about it, but not remember what we'd said.
You had 3 jobs for a while there, didn't you? Or at least,
exactly.
At least 2
well,
jobs.
No, I was working at Shandong.
When we started,
right.
you were pretty stable.
Yeah, I was just,
It's a good place to play.
Oh, yeah, right.
Is that one okay?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was just working the dong, but,
Oh, nice. On wax, huh? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, we're big vinyl collectors around here.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I am, but, I don't know. I think I might just move to digital.
It's,
I mean, for DJing. So I DJ.
Right. Oh, cool.
And I like to spin,
What's your DJ name?
DJ Transfat.
Sweet. I like it.
I love it.
We're totally down to plug you, too, for the intro on this one.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, because I don't have any gigs or anything currently, but I want to. But
well, if you have any social media or stuff, we'll put that out there.
Not really, but thank you.
All right.
Anyway, I used to do old school hip hop, golden era of hip hop, 80s, 90s,
Sweet.
Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, shit like that.
Break stuff.
Yeah, and then but I was also really into electronic music, particularly drum and bass, and so that's really my passion, and that's what I want to spin. But all that stuff is imports, and getting it on wax is just
it's tough.
It's literally at least $10 a song.
Right.
At least when you break it down.
Right.
Most of those are it's a platter, and it's one song on one side and one song on the other, and it's usually about $20, and even more when you factor in shipping. And that's what I want to get out and spin, and I just feel like the only way I can do that is to, and plus so much shit is out of print too. That's the other thing.
Right.
You're so limited by what's, so anyway, I sadly have been thinking, I'm never going to get rid of my records or whatever, and I'll still incorporate that into stuff, but because I really like just the tactile feel of mixing with records. It's very different. With digital, everything just matches up and you don't have to do anything, but with records, you're constantly having to adjust and actually, mess with the beat to make it fit.
And there's a whole other skill set that goes along with, just even dropping your needle and, I don't know. Yeah, there's a whole other thing that goes along with
100%.
spinning actual
all
vinyl,
that stuff.
So.
You can match beats without being a turntablist,
Yeah. Right, exactly, which is probably what would describe me best. I do a little bit of scratching because, like I said, I used to do hip hop party down in Alabama. We had breakers, DJs. I never battled, but we had DJ battles, all that stuff. It was really awesome. And
awesome.
And my boy Supreme is a DJ and still doing it. He toured with J5, all kinds of people.
Oh,
so,
hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's anyway. Why was I talking about that? Oh, yeah, because I'm a DJ, and we're talking about records.
Yeah.
But I also I'm going to order some records pretty soon, probably, just because I miss spinning and stuff. And so, Melody calls it headache music, though. She won't let me play it
Damn. So.
Wow.
What do they think of metal? That's headache music.
Yeah, I know. She likes metal, but not during the day when she's trying to sleep.
Right.
Hello, I'm B.
I'm Ricky. Nice to meet you.
You can say hi. We're still just doing cold open stuff here.
Oh, okay.
So we're not recording at this point.
Oh, we are.
We are.
We just usually do like a long, rambly kind of like
Okay.
cold open, just to get everybody loosened up and
That's
in the
cool.
zone.
Yeah,
just kind
and-
of pick it up wherever, you know.
Yeah,
Cool.
totally. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, we can just jump into the story. Do you have anything prepared? Like, because also we can just shoot the shit.
Yeah.
And
no.
tell any stories you want. So.
I did have something in mind,
Okay.
and not necessarily something prepared, but it's kind of a story that I've told either all together or in parts more than once.
Cool.
I guess,
Cool.
you know.
Nice.
We'll start at the beginning. Take us back.
Okay, all right. Well, the beginning. I guess if I would give it a name, I would call it Coming Out, or my coming out story.
Cool.
And I guess so. My whole life, I've always felt different, and for a very long time, I didn't know what that was exactly, but I knew I was different.
Sure.
And I grew up in Alabama. I was born in 1973, so grew up in the 80s and 90s, and as I probably don't have to tell anybody, Alabama does not look favorably upon the LGBTQ community.
You don't say.
Back then, I don't know, a lot has changed. Back then, I didn't know anyone who was out at my school, whether it was middle school or high school. I mean, that was unimaginable to me.
Right.
And I didn't really even know what things really meant, right? I was a kid. I mean, my only experience of what I now know as being transgender was the occasional sitcom plot where George Jefferson, runs into his old college friend, except now he's a she, and this whole thing unfolds, and
Yeah, they dealt with that very delicately, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and it's right. It was basically just kind of a slapstick comedy device, if anything, almost.
Goddamn.
Well, even before it was other disparaging words were used, it was cross-dresser, right? That's what you were. You just dressed in women's clothing.
Right.
You weren't. It wasn't a gender identity thing,
Right.
And that's how pop culture sort of treated it. At least that's how I remember it growing up as a kid on the sitcoms and TV and stuff. So
Sure. It was always presented as more of a fetish than like a lifestyle or anything like that, or just a state of being,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember definitely some shows where, I don't know, looking back, I think some of the things I saw were, for the time, pretty respectfully treated, for the time. But it was the fact that it was that was really my only experience of of transness of any kind, And I did kind of early on thought of myself more as a cross-dresser. I having matured now throughout my life and going through this, I've realized that it's a process of self-discovery, like anything about yourself, and no one should feel like they have to nail shit down at any point in their life.
Sure.
If you want to nail it down, fine, but
especially in a culture where you don't have any kind of just even terminology for it, it's concepts that you're discovering on your own. I mean, there's no roadmap for that,
Oh yeah. No, I was 30 something years old before I really understood what it meant to be transgender, and that's when I realized that that's what I was. Crazily enough. So growing up was weird for me, and I was very closeted and kind of even to myself. I partitioned parts of myself even from other parts of myself,
of course.
if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
And some things that I remember my mother caught me. I found some of her clothes in my stuff, and she confronted me about it. And I was just mortified, and I even though I was just caught totally red-handed, I couldn't admit it. And I was just like, no, I don't know how that happened. I didn't do that, and, she knew that I was lying to her, but she didn't make a big deal out of that, because I think she understood how hard it would be for me to admit that to anybody.
Sure. Yeah.
And she just said, it's not wrong to want to dress in women's clothing or whatever. That's okay, but it's not okay to take my things without asking. And I thought that was a pretty fair way to kind of adjudicate that, if you will.
Now, so were your parents cool, or was at least your mom cool, or?
Yeah, I mean, in as much as she could be, and as much as I allowed her to be, I didn't let her in at all. That was I just felt like I couldn't, and it was too hard for me to even accept myself, much less ask anyone else to. But I always knew that she loved me. That was always this constant behind it all, and my dad too. But my dad is a different story. He very traditional Southern,
Right.
But I've always known he loved me, and that's really what gave me the strength to eventually come out to him, is that I knew no matter what, he would always love me.
That's really good.
So growing up, there are a few more things, my mom found some gay porn one time, and other things. So she's just always known. I could never keep anything from that woman.
That's not mine.
So
where'd you find that?
I found it by the library, oddly enough, in this weird place by the library. Anyway, it's this weird thing about growing up where you randomly find discarded porn. I don't know what that is.
That's how I found some porn.
Okay, it's a constant. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyway.
No, I feel so bad for kids these days who just look at
I know, right?
It's so easy for them.
Where is the fucking fun in that?
Yeah, you don't have a rain-soaked porn magazine that you hold as the holy grail.
Where you pray it's rain soaked.
Right.
It was rain.
Oh god.
Yeah, these pages are all crinkled because of rain.
It's definitely rain. I believe
They're stuck together because of rain.
I will maintain that it was rain until the day I die. God damn it.
Yeah. So and then I don't know, and then into college, it was college. It was kind of a bohemian, kind of liberal arts college in Alabama, but very liberal arts,
but more accepting, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. And so I experimented a little bit with cross-dressing then,
and this would have been 90s,
early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's even been a little bit of that, maybe on MTV at this point.
Yeah, there was more stuff out there at this point, a little bit more, but shit was still pretty fucked up.
Oh god, no, I'm not. I mean,
and
no
this
way
is at a time when the broader gay community was really not accepting of trans people at all.
Right.
In a lot of cases.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's you bring something up that I don't know that everybody knows, which is just that even though everyone kind of some people consider this all under one umbrella, even in the LGBTQ whatever community, trans people aren't necessarily universally accepted.
Interesting.
To a very large degree, and
there have been times when, for example, affluent gay men were willing to leave trans people behind in order to get the rights or whatever that they wanted. So that's a thing, but I don't want to dwell too much on it.
Sure.
Anyway,
sure. No, we don't have to go down that, down that path. Yeah.
So I guess then that kind of takes me to moving here, and obviously Portland is a much more accepting place. And
when did you move here?
2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was after college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, well after college, and I think mostly what was kind of holding me back at that time was really I date guys, but I really like dating girls, and it was hard for me to imagine a girl that would want to date a trans woman. You know, that wasn't something that I thought was, you know, a thing, you know, and that's something I struggled with my whole life. I mean, I remember, you know, back in college, I was dating this girl, and she told me about this guy that she used to date and how he liked to cross dress, and she was laughing at him. And it was just like...
Oh, that's hurtful.
Yeah, and it just, you know, made me just be like, oh, you know.
Right, you're like, we'll just shut this down.
Yeah, but that's why, you know, it was like, to me, it was either date women or you know, be the woman I think I am, I guess, you know? So it was kind of, seemed like a choice to me.
Oh, that's tough.
And so then I started getting... involved with my union at work. We unionized at my workplace, and I was getting involved with my union, and our union is very progressive, and they're very actively promote LGBTQ people to positions of leadership. So my organizer was an out, you know, lesbian woman, and through getting to know her, she turned me on to an organization called Pride at Work. And they were having a meeting. It's basically a LGBTQ union group, and it's a part of the AFL-CIO, and it's basically about LGBTQ people having a seat at the table of power within the labor movement. You know, like literally and figuratively.
Cool,
right?
Nice.
And so they were sort of reforming the Oregon chapter at the time, and she was trying to get me to come to this meeting, and you know, I had work that night, and as you know, especially back then, I wasn't a house employee or anything. You know, in an event-based business where I work, you got to get the money when the money's there, and this was a good money show, and I didn't want to miss it.
Sure.
But my organizer at the time was like, this is really important, you know, this guy, Cleve Jones, is there, and I didn't even know who the hell Cleve Jones was at the time. Anyway, I somehow got the night off, and I went, and this guy, Cleve Jones, was there. He's this older guy. He's wearing like a sweater, whatever, and he introduced himself, and we talked and stuff, and he was like, so do you know who I am? And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't. And he's like, well, have you seen the movie Milk? Well, it turned out I had just watched the movie Milk.
Oh, cool.
And it was like, it blew me the fuck away, right?
Yeah.
Like that one scene where he's like, get on the fucking phone right now and call your mom and come out to her. That was like, oh my God, right?
Rad.
And I was like, yeah, I have seen it. It's amazing. And he's like, we know Emil Hirsch in that movie. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's me. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I was that hot back then. I was like, damn. So that's how I met Cleve Jones. And like that meeting kind of changed my life, because then I got involved with Pride at Work. Well, ended up going to a training in Washington, D.C., where they bring leaders from different unions all over the country and sort of teach you all this information about LGBTQ stuff, so that you can go back and disseminate it amongst your union people and stuff. And so that was the meeting I was telling you about earlier, where I was sitting there, and they're like going over these terms, and they're like, transgender, and this is where your gender identity just doesn't match the sex you were assigned at birth. And I was like, well, shit, that's what I am. And so that's, when I came out as transgender to this room full of people who were like top leaders in their union from all over the country, just a really, really great group of people.
That's beautiful.
And I learned so much from that, and to me, it's not that labor unions are always perfect on LGBTQ stuff, but if it wasn't for my union, I wouldn't have probably put all this shit together for a long, long time, Oh, wow. So it was really huge for me. Okay. And
that actually kind of blows my mind that's that was the path, like through a labor union,
right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It is kind of, and the funny thing is, I know so many, because the thing is, like, people don't realize LGBTQ people, we have been the activists behind the Republican and the Democratic Party for decades, because we couldn't get married and we couldn't have kids.
Right.
And so we put all this effort into that, all of our love, all of our maternal, everything into what we believed in, into organizing, and, and of course with the, Supreme Court decision and stuff, that's changing, but, we still are just such a vital force within the labor movement.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess at that point, I was still going by the name Ben, and I was still identifying as male, and I sort of kind of gradually figured these things out. I didn't want to rush into anything. My mom actually had this prophetic dream that she should name me Ben, and so I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to fuck with that mojo, and so I just wanted to be thoughtful and not, and just really think things through, and so I kind of I eased into things, and so I was using the men's room for probably a year or two, but dressing and pretty much looking female all the time, and
sure.
So you'd get this thing where a guy would walk into the bathroom and think he was in the wrong bathroom, and then I'd be like, "Oh no, you're not. You're in the right bathroom. It's okay. Come back.
Don't worry about it.
Come back. Wait, don't come back. Put that away. Oh God, no." No, none of that. Luckily, ever happened.
Well, okay, so so you, through this organization, because they were supportive and everything,
mm-hmm.
you decided, like, okay, cool, I feel like I can be comfortable about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of how quickly did it happen? Did you just sort of flip a switch and you're like, went out and bought new wardrobe, or was it gradual and you were just like, okay, like...
It was gradual, but there was definitely a flip of the switch, and I think it was when I went... So I just got back from a union leave not too long ago, but the first time I went on union leave, I guess it was late 2012, early 2013. So the union asked me to take a leave from my bartending job to work for the union full time on some campaigns that they were working on at the time. And so, our work wardrobe is like a shirt and slacks. It's very, kind of whatever, and that was, I either was wearing that or in pajamas most of the time, frankly, And so this job where I was full-time with the union, I was like, okay, so I'm going to dress as a woman. And that's kind of when it started, when I just full-time started dressing as a woman, because I was a full-time organizer, and I just felt like suddenly free to, like, embrace this and figure it out,
Hell yeah.
So I had a lot of experiences. I remember one time maybe it was a discipline. I was representing someone in a discipline, and it was a much older woman, and who I actually really I liked her, but she was a tough old lady. Got into a bar fight one time, pulled a knife on somebody. Anyway,
we gotta get her on the
oh yeah, if she was still with us, good God, I would be like, put her on. But she gave me a look up and down, and she said, "Don't you think you ought to put some pants on?" Because I was wearing a dress.
Oh.
And I was like, No, I think we're good. I just started walking. Never another word about it.
Nice.
And I was impressed with how the membership just kind of like, because I didn't walk into the situation like, oh God, I hope everyone doesn't notice I'm wearing a dress. I just walked into the situation like, I've got a job to do. Let's do this shit, And I think people kind of just took me at that level, which was pretty cool,
That is really cool.
for the most part, except stuff like that occasionally.
Yeah, sure.
But for the most part, people were like, okay, B's here, she's doing her thing, like, let's do it, And I don't think that would have been the case everywhere, but it was mostly the case for me. And I even had people say that they, really respected the job that I did and my dedication and everything. And I think people looked to, the job I was doing, and my intentions were good, and I sincerely cared about people, and they looked at that, and,
good. I mean, I'm sure it helps that you knew your shit and were getting stuff done, you know, but like...
Yeah.
But still, like, let any menial, let anything get in the way of people who have, like, bigoted ideas to, like, discount good work. You know, it's like, it's crazy. Like,
well, I have a way of disarming people. I don't know what it is, but...
hey.
I just, you know, and the thing I kind of started to love about it, there's a lot of things I didn't like about it, but the thing I started to love about that job was like that fact that like here I am interacting with all kinds of different people. Our union, Unite Here, Local 8, we represent just about any kind of person you can think of. A lot of immigrant workers from all over the place. And, you know, all these folks dealing with me, you know, we weren't overtly teaching them anything about LGBTQ equality, and yet just by like putting me in that role and having me be the interface, the face of the union, if you will, for all these people, you know, it was really a kind of a game-changing thing, I think, you know. And some of those shops, I still go there occasionally, and they're like, "Oh, man, it's so good to see you." Give me a big hug and everything. So yeah, that was really cool. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah,
so like,
really fucking cool.
So essentially, people were just learning through interaction with you and just realizing, like, oh, hey, you're just a really cool person, and
right.
I don't need to have whatever weird views I have.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't know. I just looked outward. I didn't look in. I don't know how to say it, but I think it was just kind of that I wasn't very self-conscious. Mm-hmm. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And I think that's probably what disarms people. It's just, I'm very comfortable. I don't seem like I'm worried about what the fuck you think about me. Yeah. So, you know.
Right. When you come at it from that position of confidence, you know, it's like, you don't even give people an opening to question it, you know. It's like,
well, right, yeah, because
here I am, I'm fucking doing this now.
If there's only one uncomfortable person in the room, then I guess the onus is on them, right?
Right.
You know? Like,
right.
All right, well, I guess you're the one having a bad time. So.
Wait,
right.
You're going to slow this train down because you're concerned that I'm wearing a dress?
Yeah.
Fuck you, sir.
Exactly, yeah. And this was at a time when, you know, there's a lot of talk about, you know, particularly trans people's issues here in Oregon and basic rights. I mean, this is when the marriage campaign was going on around this time as well. Right. So there was a lot of teaching going on right then, a lot of organizing, and a lot of just stuff was out there. And so I think it was just really on people's radar anyway. It probably would have been a lot harder even 10 years prior to that, you know, I'm sure. But, you know, I had a lot of positive experiences and just a handful of negative experiences. I did have, this was actually more recent, but I did have we were running a delegation at the convention center. This is your bosses here, so. So it's a long story, but basically, we were going to do a delegation at a place where the employer did not want us to do it. We had the right to do it, but they really didn't want us to do it there. Sure. So that's why we were going to do it there. Yeah, of course, right?
I mean,
so
you got the right.
Yep. So we were proceeding to go do our delegation, and this one particular manager came up and was like, "You can't do that." And it had about 30, 40 workers there, and they all looked at me like, what do we do? And I was like, we have every right to do this. This guy is trying to intimidate us, and we will not be intimidated. Come on, everybody. And I just turned around and started walking. And I was like, I hope these people follow me. And quite a few of them did. Some of them, you know, peeled off, but quite a few of them did. And as I was walking up there, I was a little ahead of the group, and this manager said something to me, and at one point he said, "Sir," and, you know, he knows damn good and well I'm a trans woman, and he knows the proper pronouns are addressed to me. And I said, excuse me, that's ma'am. And I grabbed my phone, and I thought I started recording, but actually I just took a picture of him. I was like, what did you say? And then he said, "I don't know what you are," and I was like, "What? What did you say to me?"
No.
Yeah, and so that was one of the experiences that I had. That's a whole other story, though. But anyway, so I at work I became basically I was just totally out, and I reached a point where I was like, I need to start using the women's room. Like, I need to pick a lane, and it's just, I feel for non-binary people because it is hard as shit being in the middle. It's honestly easier picking one pole or the other.
Yeah.
It just really, even if it's like the pole that people don't think you should be, it's still easier.
Well, people are just obsessed with definitions. They just want a definition, and we live in this world where there's fluidity now, and a lot of people just like do not understand.
People don't handle ambiguity well.
No, they want clear-cut definitions.
I myself think it's great, but
I think it's I think the fluidity of the world. Of the counterculture, the lesser culture we live in, I guess, is great. Like, I wish I could say it was the whole culture. It's just not. But I love that that's becoming a thing. I mean, even as you were talking about, like, not knowing where to define yourself, of like, well, like, I'm a cross-dresser, I guess, or whatever, but then what does that make me, like, sexually? Like, what's my sexual identity and everything? Yeah, I just love that we talk about things like, what is it, the Kinsey scale and whatnot. I was just like, no, like, I mean, I'm straight, but also maybe 10% into dudes or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to be completely honest and somehow still be able to date people. And, like, a lot of me, like, just being like, I'm a woman was like, I wanted to date straight guys, and I realized that was possible. and that was part of it for me, and not just dating straight guys, a lot of things, but it was like, where do you, those dating sites, it's all about, fitting, and if you don't have anything that defines you to fit with some other thing that's defined, I don't know, it's just really hard, right? Yeah, it's really hard, and the more definition you have, the more you're going to be able to find someone that maybe fits with you, or at least so the common wisdom goes. Well, I don't know.
Well, that would be the common wisdom, but luckily I think people are embracing this idea of fluidity more, where it's like, oh, well, I don't have to say, like, this is my gender and this is my orientation and then this fits together in this nice little, like, bow or whatever. It's like, no, I'm into this and I'm into this and I identify as this, and but I see what you mean. Like, it's harder to find that fit in a way because people are so obsessed with definitions,
and to a certain extent people don't want to let you not define it, like they want to pin you down, and so if you don't, then that's almost more disconcerting than, like you said, if you just pick a lane and give them something to, like.
It's a life of fighting because the binary is the dominant thing, and it's the dominant way of thinking, and so to live in that realm and to identify that way is to just, I don't know. To me, it's like being constantly at war with the status quo.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so. And, I mean, if I was to be completely honest, non-binary is probably defines me a little more accurately.
It probably defines more people than they would like to admit.
Oh, yeah, right?
I mean, if it's all a spectrum and we can say that, a certain percentage of people are this, then, like, the other end of the spectrum's got to be kind of similar, like... There's a lot of room for wiggling.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess alongside of all this, some of my family members, like, I had come out to them, and my brother, I had come out to my brother. I was actually forcibly outed to a couple of my closest friends. Ouch. And that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
but oddly kind of glad it happened in a way because I don't know how it would have happened otherwise. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, so. and it's good that you look at it that way because, I mean, you can't unring a bell, you know, so.
Yeah, it was still a messed up experience, but if he hadn't kind of pushed me off the dock, I don't know what would happen. I don't know if I ever would have got on that ferry. But pun intended. So anyway,
so did you sort of come out to your coworkers at the union before your family?
But yeah, before some of my family.
Or was it kind of all simultaneous?
Yeah, and I mean, they were like, I was out here and I had this kind of whole life out here and I explored a lot of shit that my family didn't know very much about, you know? Like, I had experiences where, you know, I'm home for a visit and, like, I get out of the shower and, like, I'm dressed, but I didn't put, like, socks on. And I walk out, and I'm like, oh, yeah, my toenails are painted. And my dad's sitting there. And, like...
How did that happen?
Yeah, and my nephew looks at me, and he's like, Uncle Ben, are you gay? And my dad's sitting, like, right there. That's so cute. That's the kind of guy he is, but I love that guy. But... Yeah, and I felt bad because I was like, I told him, I was like, you know, that's not really an appropriate question, but I wanted to, you know, say something different, but I just didn't feel the strength at that time, and that's not really how I wanted to come out to my dad.
Sure.
Yeah,
totally. You're like, actually,
I'm
super, thanks for listening.
Yeah. So,
sorry,
but,
listeners at home.
That was not an earthquake.
It was Nathan.
But it reached a point where I kind of felt like to respect my dad, I had to come out to him because everyone around pretty much knew, and it was just, I just felt like it's just a matter of time before something slipped or came out, and I didn't want him to find out that way. So
the walls were closing in.
Yeah, right. And
enough people knew that it was going to get back somehow.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. All my nuclear family knew except him and a bunch of my cousins and stuff and most of my friends. So I was like, I gotta figure this shit out. And you know, they're back in Alabama and everything, and so we had a family vacation out in the woods at this cabin. I thought that would be a good time to do it. So
sure.
I wrote this speech, and I still have it somewhere, I think. But it was a really powerful fucking speech, you know?
Hell yeah.
And I was like, you know, this isn't some trivial thing. This is who I am, and I need you to hear me on this. And, you know, it was very powerful, and I got through it, but I was like crying the whole way.
Oh.
And my mom was crying. She was there too. And, you know, he took it as well as could be expected, I guess, you know. But like, I knew so many LGBTQ people who have been disowned by their parents, so
yeah,
right.
You know,
when you went into this, did you think? I mean, did you have any expectations? Were you just like, I don't know, we're just going to do this and see how it turns out, or did you kind of?
I knew he wasn't going to disown me or anything like that.
Okay. See,
I knew he wasn't going.
That's really nice.
That's why I did it, because I don't think I would have. Because because no matter what, I love him and I want to have a relationship with him. I think it might have come to a point. I would never disrespect a partner that way, you know. Like if it came to a point where I was like, you know, in a queer relationship or what have you, I think at that point I definitely would have come out, you know.
Right.
But I kind of, you know, as long as it was my secret, I was whatever, you know. And I, you know, would have kept that secret if that's what it meant to keep the relationship with him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just, you know, I've always been that way. I've always, like, my parents have always respected integrity and honesty. And, you know, I mean, when I was a little kid, I told my mom I couldn't be, well, I was a little kid, I was in middle school. I told my mom I couldn't be confirmed in the Catholic Church. And she said, why? And I said, well, because you have to stand there and say you believe in all this stuff. And I don't know if I believe this stuff. And I can't sit there and honestly say that. And she was like, I respect that. Right on. And my brother was like, damn, I could have just said that. I could have got out of a whole year of this bullshit. Yeah.
Confirmation.
So I knew that they respected an integrity move like that. And yeah, so...
And I guess that answers my question, too. So they're Catholic?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah. And it actually went pretty well. I felt really good about it. My dad said something to my brother like, oh, well, he immediately went into this mode of like, what did I do wrong? And I mean, the thing about him is he's really entrenched in this notion that it's wrong. It's like, and it's not even this evangelical thing. It's really not. He's not a hateful person.
It's a product of a generation.
Yeah.
So my mom and one of my uncles are both gay, and my grandparents went through the same thing too, and they're both totally cool, totally loving people now, and have been for years, and accepted them right off the bat. But that was, the first thing that they went through was like, what did we do wrong?
Right.
I'm just like, God.
It's not about you.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
And second of all, what wrong? There's nothing wrong. This is great. This is good news. This is the good news of Lord Jesus Christ here, man. I'm out. This is awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Have you seen our parade?
Nothing wrong with that.
The fringe benefits to this thing are really sweet, Dad. Let me tell you. So I came out and then we came back here to Oregon, and then over the months after that I noticed something. My dad, he always said I love you at the end of a phone call, and he stopped saying that. And it's the kind of thing where he always did it, and then it stopped. I mean, there's got to be something to that,
Wow, yeah. And you don't not take notice of that. Seriously.
Yeah, and so that was kind of weird, and I would say about maybe 8 to 10 months later, I was just feeling really frustrated with him, and it just so happened that Cleve Jones was in town, and weed wasn't legal at the time, and he needed some weed, so he came and called me. We got all high and got to talking about shit, and I was telling him about my dad, and I was like, yeah, I finally came out, and he's like, oh, that's great, how did that go? And I was like, he is just not getting it. It's been like 10 months now, and he just needs to figure it out. Like, this is me, this is who I am. And I'm expecting Cleve, famous gay rights activist, to be like, yeah, right on, screw your dad, he sucks. But he was like, well, how long did it take you to come out? Like, how long did it take you to accept just yourself, and be okay with who you are? And I was like, well, I don't know, like 33 years.
Like decades?
And he was like, damn, you think you could give your dad a little bit more time?
Wow.
Yeah. Some profound shit.
That's fucking powerful.
Right?
Really, though.
So that really, and that really, because that's not what I was expecting him to say. And that, that made me think. And
that's some deep shit right there.
And time did, improve things, and the I love you returned, and we just kind of rebuilt whatever may have been rent asunder by the admission, and just kind of moved on. I mean, we both love each other very much, and we really enjoy each other's company. It's not the kind of family thing where it's like, oh, awkward, I have to hang out with my dad. I love the guy. I love hanging out with him. He's a hoot.
Awesome.
Kind of ridiculous man, but then I'm a ridiculous woman, so so it kind of fits. But things have kind of progressed over time. I mean, for a while he was dead naming me. But, one of the last times actually that I saw my mom alive, I decided, I've got to, this whole dead naming thing has gone on too much. My name is B. I changed my name. He's literally the only person in the entire world that still calls me Ben. I need to tell him this is not okay. And so, I started to...
It's also not a stretch. Like, just stop at the first letter.
Yeah, right. It's easy.
You just gotta not say an N. You're there.
Yeah.
I could have gone with, like, Rowena Anal Princess. Like, you must call me that whole thing! That whole fucking thing! Or I walk! This is not a negotiation! That was out there for a minute. No, I'm kidding.
It was on the table.
It was never on the table. But so anyway, so I was like, I gotta do this, and it's work. I want family members to know for us to do this shit is fucking work.
Yeah.
So for every little bit that you can just fucking figure out for yourself, it's greatly fucking appreciated. But so I had to say, like, look, I've legally changed my name. I can show you my ID. This is what I want to be called. This is who I am. And my mom is sitting over there, one last time, like, this is not about you. This is not about you, like,
Yeah.
love that woman. He started calling me B. So he's trying. And to me, it's this really beautiful thing to me of love, of like, he's such a different person and I'm such a different person, and yet we love each other so much, and that gives me hope, right?
That's beautiful.
Like,
and that's beautiful.
Yeah. And that brings us pretty much up to date with the family stuff. One funny last time I was home, my mom passed away not too long ago, and so my dad's changing over accounts and putting our name on things and preparing for his own demise, and he was taking me to a couple of different banks to transfer some things over because I physically had to be present. And this is in Prattville, Alabama, I should remind you. And he kept referring to me as his son, but the funny thing is, like, the bank teller would say they or she.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or, like, wow, these people in bumfuck Alabama get it,
Now, was he just doing that in the presence of officials, or does he
No, he
still
always
sort of
does that.
do that?
He always calls me his son.
Really?
Yeah. And he still misgenders me, so that's something we're working on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I should say, luckily for me, it's not. For some people, it's quite painful. I'm pretty resilient in that regard, and it doesn't. But I know for a lot of trans people, it's a very, very painful thing to have to experience.
Well, it's
that.
fucking rude.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not hard. Someone tells you once, figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, and he's very resistant to education too. That's the other really frustrating thing. He just really shuts down and just won't hear certain things at all. Just refuses to.
Well, because it's fucking scary to him, probably.
Oh, it's scary as hell.
And again, product of generation.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
He spent. I mean, again, that shit that. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Your mentor.
Cleve Jones.
Yeah, the shit that he said about. How long did it take you to come to grips with your own self, and
yeah, that's
just like it sucks because you want these people to like turn around quickly, but when you're a product of your generation, you've lived in this world for decades and decades, like, it's got to be hard to flip that switch for them. And not to defend it, not to defend bigotry, and not to defend
I know what you mean.
That,
I know what you mean.
I feel like there's degrees to everything.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I don't
tough
know either.
sometimes. It's
Yeah.
tough.
I mean, on the other hand, my mom got it from day fucking one. I remember being very young and her
And some
arguing at the
people
dinner
do.
table and being like, gay rights are important, and like championing those things even though she didn't fully understand it, and like when I came out, she bought books about parroting trans people.
Aw, Mom. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a good thing that that your dad loves you and that that's the like the starting line for both of you. Because I tell you what, you know, there's other people who have similar responses from their dad, and but the love isn't there, and like that's a complete
forget about it. Yeah,
game, you know?
Why bother? Yeah, I mean,
you know,
he's thousands of miles away anyway. If I didn't love him, there'd be no reason for me to ever go to Alabama ever again. Well, I mean, I got some friends down there and stuff, but
sure, yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we are with him, and then I guess I'll tell one more little tale about sort of my work experience with all this. So as I told you, I decided, okay, I need to start using the women's room, and of course that includes at work. And I got a varying, you know, everybody's got to give you their opinion about, you know, what bathroom you're supposed to use. So,
yeah.
You know, so
they do.
So you know, one person was like, well, I think if you're dressed as a woman, then you should go to the women's room, but if you're not dressed as a woman, then you should go to the men's room. And you know, because again, like our work uniform is like just a button-up shirt and pants or whatever.
Right.
Right.
And I was just like, no, that's just too much work for one thing. Like to parse all that out. Like which one do I know? I just want to figure out which one I go to and just do it. You know. So it was like, okay, I guess it's a ladies' room, and felt like everything was going along pretty swimmingly. I mean, it was interesting, right? You're your first time walking in there, and you're like, "Is this okay? I'm doing this."
Is the alarm
I mean, you know, you cannot do that. I mean, you're from the earliest age. It's like, oh, don't ever go in there. You know.
Oh, right. That's the line.
I'll never forget the first time I went to the pool with my mom, and like, I'm old enough to remember this, right? So I had to have been like 5 or something.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm in the women's changing room. There's naked women everywhere. And I'm I'm not supposed to be there right now.
Right.
Yeah. And my mom's like, it's cool. You can't go into the other one by yourself.
Right.
So you're allowed.
Because there's priests in there. No, sorry.
And we're not going to talk about the time I showered with a priest.
I think that's already come up, actually.
It's already been on the podcast. But yeah, like even at that age, you know, I'm like, holy shit, I feel like I'm getting away with something, and I'm also like feeling really weirded out because I'm pretty sure everyone else around me feels like I shouldn't be here
right yeah.
And I'm fucking 5 years old, you know, like I can only imagine what it feels like.
It's interesting,
after 30 years of that.
It's interesting. There's a few things I realized, you know, like, well, the main thing was like I had to like make myself stop whistling in the bathroom because I learned this thing like I don't think women whistle. Women don't really whistle. And so I felt like I was outing myself by whistling in the bathroom.
Not totally true.
I wasn't going to tell you this.
Well, not totally true. Yeah, but
I tell you this.
Is that not a thing, though?
You definitely whistle like a man.
I've got a nice warble. I do. I've got a really nice warble on my whistle. I've been sought out by no one. So anyway, yeah, so I felt like everything was going just fine. Didn't see any problems with it. Well, one night I got a text message that said, it's been reported that you're using the women's restroom. And they said...
like 4...
And they said it wasn't me, but it's been reported or whatever. And I didn't really know how to take that, you know? I mean, my first reaction was kind of fear that I had transgressed in some way, right? Like, that was kind of the gut reaction. And this feeling of like, oh, maybe I don't have a place here. Maybe I don't belong there. And then I thought, oh God, am I going to have to, you know, because I had trans friends who had literally been pulled in by their boss and asked things like, well, what were you born as? And,
oh God.
Well, you should just use the gender neutral restroom. but don't use the women's restroom or the men's restroom or what have you. And I was like, oh man, am I going to be, interrogated about my most private things by my boss?
Yeah, that sucks.
And then my next thought was, well, if they want to do that, I'm going to call my union rep, Jen Graham, and we're going to go down and we're going to tear them into shreds.
Hell yeah.
And then I was like, I didn't believe it because I knew the management team very well. I've been working with them for a long time, and I've been out for a while.
Wait, who reported you?
It wasn't management. I'll get to that. But management had been really supportive, so I didn't really think that that was gonna be the response to it. But it still freaked me out, right? And sure. And so I actually reached out to. So I figured out it was probably this one woman because she works the co-check room, which is right next to the women's room at the Hatfield Hall. And so she was just always there watching me go in there. And I had also noticed that she had kind of stopped talking to me and stuff.
Oh, man.
And so I figured it was probably her. And so I didn't get pulled in by management or anything, but I wanted to figure out, well, how do we address this? Because then I started hearing from other ushers things like, well, like they saw a trans person in line to use a gender-neutral restroom, or maybe it was a gender-nonconforming person, what have you, and they were in line to use the gender-neutral restroom, which is also the ADA restroom.
Right.
And ushers were coming up to them and saying, no, this is for ADA purposes only. You should use the other restrooms and things like that. Or people were saying, well, where's the gender neutral restroom? And the ushers were saying, we don't have one of those, things like that.
Yeah, that's bad training.
And this woman who had reported this to me was an usher. How is she going to treat our guests? We have, all kinds of people that come to our venues, including lots of trans folk. Mm-hmm. How is she going to treat them? And so I really wanted to do something about this, and I felt it was one of those, teachable moments, if you will. And so I reached out to my friend Bambi, who's the shop steward for the ushers. And I was like, hey, I really think we should try to get management on board to pay everybody for 2 hours to come in and do a training. What do you think? And of course she had heard about this complaint and everything, and she was totally supportive, and she was like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So she went to Metro management. Well, in the meanwhile, while we're kind of working on getting this training set up, Bambi came to me again and she said, someone complained that you left pee on the seat.
What?
And I was like, are you kidding me? I sit, first of all, and I am very conscious that, because it was still new to me, and I was very conscious of being respectful in that space, and
wow.
And that really just was like, are you kidding me?
It's just so personal.
That's not fucking gender exclusive.
Well, it's like, who's surveilling me? Well, yeah.
I'm not trying to out my sisters.
There's the whole hovering thing.
Fucking cis girls piss all over the fucking seats. Yes. And I've heard it from every cis girl that I know.
Another discovery I made. I was like, what the hell is this shit?
Yeah.
Like we're not trying to generate any cis women hate here,
but look, it's a thing, and every cis girl I know has told me as much. So
it's definitely a thing.
Fucking,
but men are not the only ones who pee on toilet seats. You've heard it here first.
A revelation to the breaking news.
Yeah,
but it definitely wasn't me. And like you said, even if it, who is surveilling me? That's not okay. You know. So it was very frustrating. So anyway, we actually got Metro. We got the city to get on board, and then our general manager, who's I don't always agree with him, but he's a very fair, I think he's a very good manager overall. He was totally on board, and so they agreed to pay everybody for 2 hours for a training. And we had the engineers, the ushers, the ticket sellers, the custodial people, bartenders, stand workers, everybody that works in our facilities was there. And in fact, the Newmark Theater, we filled up the Newmark Theater in there.
Wow.
And it was really cool. They did a really good training. They had a third-party training thing come in and do a training. And, from some of the comments and questions that were made, it was like, oh, yeah, we so needed this training, because people were like, well, what are we supposed to do when they look male, but they're in the women's, it's like, it's not for you to, try to figure all that out. If they're there and they're not disturbing you, just
You're not
go
the
take a piss.
Overseer.
Yeah. And one woman, said, well, I was a victim of rape and I don't, I have these comfort level things with sharing a bathroom with people and stuff. And, there's a lot of stuff that was thrown out. And I got up towards the end and I had sat in the front row, of course, so I got up in front of everybody. And I dressed really, really nicely, too. I was like, and I got up in front of everybody and I said, hi, everybody. Many of you have known me over the years. I've worked there like 15 years. Have known me over the years as Ben, but my name is now B, and I'm a woman, and I use female pronouns. And I just want y'all to know that, what we're talking about today really isn't about what our standard might be at home or what our personal standards might be or how we feel about things. This is Metro's standard, and they want to be inclusive of everybody, including trans people. And so, if you want to work here, you kind of got to get on board with that.
Wow.
And
yeah.
And I got a lot of really cool comments from various people after that, a lot of affirming comments and stuff. It was a really affirming experience, actually. It was totally amazing, actually.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, that's what it comes down to these days, is it's no longer like, hey, could you just not be a dick? It's, oh, actually, this is now the societal standard for how this shit works.
Right, so if you have a problem,
at least in Portland,
then that's on you.
Yeah, so if you have an issue with this, not only are you a dick, but you're gonna get fired.
Well, and that actually brings it full circle to what has come up a couple times tonight of it's on the other person.
Yes.
At a certain point,
Absolutely.
I have come out, I have shown you, I've said everything. Now, if you have a problem, then that's your problem,
Damn straight.
And that's really poignant. And I think a lot of people don't get that. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a trans queer person, and who has dedicated to myself. They're dedicated to educate people, but that's me.
Yeah.
Not everybody who's trans and queer feels that commitment.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely.
And shouldn't have to feel that commitment.
No, of course.
I'm glad to do it. I love to do it. But there's nothing wrong with someone like me who has no interest in that, it's okay to just live your life. I mean, in the final analysis, as plenty of people have said, I mean, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said, but, the information is out there. And I think people are increasingly becoming aware that, just asking someone, educate me on this, is asking them for labor,
Right.
It's work, and it's exhausting a lot of times.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, even just my queer friends, so in an employment circumstance, have been called upon to educate on trans issues. And it's I'm gay. How am I all of a sudden an expert on transgender?
That's interesting. I hadn't encountered that, but I'm not surprised.
I'm just saying, you're completely 100% right. No one should have to be the expert on this shit for anyone. The information's out there.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Use fucking Google.
Right.
My God.
No, it's true. And, as long as you can still point people to those Google links, at the very least, you know. I've definitely encountered some like people who won't talk to me about something that I don't understand, and it's a little frustrating.
Okay, no, you're right.
Where it's like, okay, look, I understand that, like, I feel ignorant in this situation, so tell me what I need to look up. If you can literally just link me a thing.
Right.
I
sometimes you don't know where to start.
No, but it's also like, I get that too, though. Like, I know that you put in tons of work constantly to, like, work for this, and I'm a cis white male, and I don't put work in for anything. So, like, I get that. But if you can shoot me a link, I can start there. And some people get shitty on me for even that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just link me. But okay, yeah. But even just this talk is like kind of makes me understand, like, yeah, you fucking work a lot on this.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And it's just your day to day.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I get it for sure.
Yeah. So that's my story coming out.
Thank
Hell
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Man.
Is there some weed?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna turn it off. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
This was really cool and enlightening
You're a wonderful
for me.
speaker. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you.
I always tell people who like are good at talking. People who are like, I really want to tell the story, but I don't really know what I'm doing.
I know. That's what I was telling Matt. I was like, oh, I can do this.
No, you're one of those perfect guests who just jumped right in. You're just like, yeah, well, I can talk. So.
It was one of those things where I'm like, I don't even care what story B wants to tell. I know B can tell a story.
The more I think about it, the more stories I have. Actually.
Well, guarantee.
Oh, I can tell that story.
Hell yeah!
And so we'll get you back on. So that was the great introduction.
Fuck yeah!
And we'll get you back on.
Oh,
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah! All right.